Joining us now for more discussions on the program is Dr. Ben Alon-Mie, a retired professor of international relations at the New York University Center for Global Affairs. Thank you so much, Doctor, for speaking to us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, let's begin with the expansion of NATO. Finland and Sweden, joining the military alliance, submitting their application. That was back on Wednesday. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is an extremely important development. That is, the irony is that whereas Putin wanted to weaken NATO, to weaken the EU, end up now strengthening, in fact, NATO. So when you have Finland and Sweden added to NATO, he has strengthened it militarily, he has strengthened it from economically, and he's strengthened it in terms of a global perception. That now NATO is not just united, but is stronger. And that is something he failed to realize, failed to expect.
Well, let's move now to the security aspect of, this war. What is your assessment of this war? Kherson, we're hearing, is close to joining Russia. That's according to the installed governor in that place. Who would we say is winning?
Winning, you mean the Ukrainian and Russian?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
I was saying let's talk about the security aspect now. What is your assessment of this war so far?
Well, I think, I've said this many times before, obviously, I'm not alone. Putin miscalculated on a number of fronts. And he miscalculated the strength of the Ukrainian resistance. He miscalculated the speed by which the United States and its allies in Europe are going to react. He miscalculated the resiliency, the strength of his own military. He overestimated that strength. So he failed really to consider carefully what are the elements that he's been facing. And that is significant. And the result of this, we are only beginning to see that, to begin with, the Russian economy is going to suffer greatly in months and years to come. The military now is being humiliated in so many different ways. And that sends a very clear signal to the West, in particular, that the Russian army is not that mighty after all. Then you have, on the whole, Russia, who's been bragging about its strength economically, militarily, and otherwise, has shown that it doesn't have that capacity. And that will have also a long-term implication. So what happened here, it did not really work to his advantage. Having said that, and it is unfortunate, is that to reach some kind of an agreement, which I feel now Russia, Putin feels that he may have now to wind down the conflict. He will be one that he now capture the area of the Donbass, creating the link between the Crimea and to the north. He may now feel that it's time for him to sit down and begin perhaps a process of negotiation. To that end, the Secretary of Defense of the United States, with his counterpart, the Russian, so the military chiefs started to talk. And that is now because I think Putin decided to cut his losses, and that is what we are going to see unfolding in the weeks to come.
Well, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says, Russia has completely destroyed the Donbass. Do you see Russia moving on to other regions, just like you say, they were not able to capture Kiev, and here Vladimir Putin is now cutting his losses?
It is really very difficult to say, predict what Putin might be thinking. But I think when we review the entire picture now and see what having suffered such military humiliation in so many different ways, in spite of all of that, and regardless of the fact what is right and what's wrong, in the end, to end this conflict, Russia, China, Putin would have to be somewhat uh, get some kind of result that he can go back to his people and say, we actually won. Our objective was to conquer that area on the east and the south and the east. We have done so. We denazificate the country, and we have basically achieved our objective. And now I think sooner or later, in fact, sooner than later, he will probably be formally annexed to that area that's been conquered so far, specifically with following the fall of Mariupol. So that is where I think it's going, based on everything that we are witnessing. Whether the circumstances and the conditions change, and to the extent they would change in order to change his own strategic approach, I don't know that. But I can say that from all sides, I think we're going to be seeing Russia now focusing on controlling the region and beginning to send some feelers in terms of how to go from there, and knowing that in the end that a settlement will have to be accomplished. But unfortunately, Ukraine is going to have perhaps to surrender some territory in order to bring this to a conclusion, albeit this is not necessarily, of course, it's not the right thing, it's not right, but that's going to be necessitated by the conditions that have been created on the ground.
All right, Dr. Alonmir, well, we need to go on a break now, but please still remain with us. We'll come back to you after the break.
Of course.
Still ahead on the program. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak says half of Gazprom's 54 clients opened Gazprom bank accounts. They're still going strong. Join us again. Welcome back to the program. We have Dr. Ben Alonmir, a retired professor of international relations at the New York University Center for Global Affairs. Thank you, Doctor, for still holding on with us. Before we went on the break, we're talking about, the security aspect of this war. So many issues all around. I just wanted to let's go back to NATO membership and, the expansion and Sweden and Finland submitting their applications, which in turn is changing the architecture of NATO. However, Turkey is in opposition. Is citing that Sweden and Finland are harboring terrorists. President Erdogan says, they are terrorists. But we've seen Sweden and Finland visit U.S. President Joe Biden, and they're committing to Turkey's security. Do you think this could perhaps change Turkey's mind? Or if not, what could change Turkey's mind?
I feel very strongly, as a matter of fact, that Turkey will change its mind. That is Erdogan. Erdogan is, he wants something in return. Erdogan would like to see the sanctions are lifted that have been imposed on Turkey because of his purchase of the S-400 missile system from air defense system from Russia. He wants to go back and receive the kind of intelligence that NATO usually share with its members, that has Turkey been deprived of for some time because of what happened, because of that purchase. So he wants to, and he wants to make sure, of course, that Sweden, from his perspective, at least, will not harbor any PKK individual fighters that have been finding a refuge, some of them in the Sweden. So all these things, I think, will be ironed out as long as the main thing for him is to remove these sanctions and become more, go back to as a full-fledged member of NATO, the way it used to be with Turkey before the incident with the purchase of this air defense system from Russia. So I think in the end, he's going to be satisfied with the various these concessions that we made for him. This is what he wants. He's a negotiator, and this is an opportunity for him to achieve what he's been trying to achieve for some time now.
And do you see NATO, agreeing to these concessions just for him to be able to allow Sweden and Finland into NATO? Do you see them doing that?
The truth is, these concessions are not that significant. In fact, the NATO would have liked for some time ago to normalize complete relationship with Turkey as far as that goes. But the for Turkey itself, stronger NATO is also good for Turkey, and everyone knows that only too well. So the Sweden and Finland joining the NATO is going to strengthen NATO, and this is very important for the entire organization. And I think Erdogan cannot afford actually to stick to his guns, so to speak, and say no in the end. The pressure will be on him will be enormous, and once these basic concessions are made, I don't have any doubt in my mind that Erdogan will concede, and Finland and Sweden will become members of NATO in very short order.
All right, finally, Dr. Ben, this war has affected so many things all around the world. Let's talk about the food aspect. Russia is saying it will export food to its own detriment, but we have the UN, calling for help because there's a global food crisis. When or do you think this war would end to be able to, get back to normal, so to speak?
Well, of course, hard to say when it's going to end. Again, like I said earlier, when you look at the reality now where things stand today, Putin will come soon to the conclusion that he basically achieved the minimum that he really wanted to achieve. His desire to conquer all of Ukraine did not work. He's going to settle on the Donbas region. And I think we're already seeing signs on both sides coming, specifically from Russia, willing now to sit down and resume the negotiation. That is a good sign. To me, that suggests that within the next few weeks, a couple of months, the dynamics of the conflict will change. But sadly and unfortunately, Putin needs a pace-saving way out, and some concession will have to be made for him in order to achieve the larger goal, which is ending this conflict that has inflicted massive, massive damage on the Ukrainian people and the country, albeit Russia itself, that is its military as well, have suffered it's a very significant humiliation. So I think we are getting to a point where both sides are carefully assessing where things stand. Although the Ukrainian will continue to fight, and they will, as for whatever it takes. But I think in the end, both sides sooner than later will come to this conclusion that the time perhaps has come to sit down and find, say, some kind of a way out of this horrifying conflict.
All right, then, Dr. Ben Allen-Meyer, retired professor of international relations, New York University Center for Global Affairs. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Good time.